Hello and welcome to another 9th As We Know It battle report. Today we're playing Necrons versus Drukhari, and we've incorporated the new mission as well as the new coherency rules that were previewed today. So let's dive right into the game.
The Dark King.
We're here playing 9th As We Know It. Now, of course, some of you say, why would you want to play 9th edition when you don't know the full rules yet? Well, we are training our minds and our bodies and our souls for the new edition as it comes. And I hope you folks have been enjoying the battle reports. Last week, we had Dustin with his Tyranids on, and today we have John the Cron. Woo! That's right. He hasn't been on for a while. He's brought his Necrons. We've got two 1,500-point armies. We will be playing the mission that was previewed, which is the 4 pillars, so there will be 4 objectives. We will be using the Gather Intel secondary for both of us, and then we can both choose the second secondary we want. We can either choose the Table Quarters secondary, or we can choose the new secondary that was previewed today, which is Raise the Flag, which will be another one. So we each get 2 secondaries. We have the 1 primary. And from there, we will move on. So let's take a look at the armies. Now, this will be 5 turns, which is also the new turn limit for the game. So it's going to be down, quick, and dirty. Let's begin. And here I have 1,500 points of Drukhari. And that's right, we're playing in my garage because that's how it goes when we're doing social distancing. It is using the brand new 3 patrols that were previewed. I'm very excited about being able to run that as a Drukhari player. So patrol number 1 is a Black Heart patrol with Archon Skari with a blast pistol blade, a Slith bodyguard, 5 Cavalry Warriors with a blaster, 2 Venoms, 2 Ravagers, and a single Void Raven bomber. Patrol number 2 is a Red Grief patrol, so Cult of the Red Grief Witch Cult, with Drazar leading it, 5 Witches with a blast pistol and a Shardnet, and then 9 Reaver jet bikes with 3 Heat Lances and 3 Grav Talons. And then the last patrol is a Prophets of Flesh patrol, a Homunculus with a Hex Rifle and Electrocorrosive Whip, 10 Rex with an Ossifactor and a Venom Blade, and 7 of the Fleshy Monster Grotesques. And that's 1,500 points. Now, the reason I've done this is because each patrol costs 2 command points. So you start with 12, and then I'd spend 2, 4, 6 command points. However, the patrol that your Warlord is in, which is Archon Skari, is refunded, which is now I'm only spending 4 command points. And Dark Eldar have a special rule where if they have 3 patrols in their army, they gain 4 command points, which offsets the cost of the other 2 patrols. So I start the game with 12 command points as usual. I will be spending 1 command point for the Alliance of Agony on Archon Skari, which will then give this Homunculus the ability to give me an additional D3 command points. So I'm going to start the game with 12 to 14 command points. And here we have John the Cron's Necrons. Woo. Hey, it's been a while since we've had you on, John.
It has. It's been a long 100-and-something days.
That's right. That's how it works. So now you've brought a battalion of Necrons, which I'm very, very excited about.
That's it.
Don't mind the bus. We're literally playing with the garage door open. That's right. This is Garage Hammer at its finest, because we're literally in a garage. This is the studio for today. So tell us what you have brought. I see a monolith.
We have a monolith that fits in it.
Oh my goodness.
At least with 8th edition points. But this is our 9th edition battalion.
Ooh.
We are all in Nihilek.
More command points than you have ever gotten in your entire 8th edition career.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. So we have our standard 2 squads of 20 warriors.
Okay.
A squad of 10 immortals.
Yeah.
We have an Overlord, Lord, and Cryptek just standing around. They both have res orbs. We brought the Nightbringer.
Oh no, he's so dangerous.
Those new monster rules go a long way.
I could imagine.
We have a 9 squad of Scarabs, a 6 squad of Scarabs, and our trusty old monolith.
I love it. That's 1,500 points, but now you start with 12 command points. which means you get all these tasty stratagems to use.
And recycling. Oh, recycling is good for the environment and good for John the Cron.
There you go, John. Okay, let's dive into the mission and all that good stuff. So it is table quarters. As for terrain and terrain key traits or keywords, we've decided to make this big piece of terrain a dense piece of terrain. So it's not going to block line of sight, but it's going to give -1 to shoot through it. This is also going to be dense. We do have stuff that physically blocks line of sight because it's big enough. If you're on top, it'll be an exposed position, which means you won't get a bonus to your cover save. And then these will also be dense terrain and light cover, which means if you're hiding behind it, because they are tall enough, you get a -1 to be shot at as well. So that's what we're going to do for this game. Another thing we thought, and I've been thinking about this, but in Age of Sigmar, what happens is you deploy something, I deploy something. You deploy something, I deploy something. So I said, well, what if they decide to bring that back into 40k? And instead of just rolling off attack a defender, maybe it's we both deploy and then roll off to see who goes first, like it was before in the past. So that's what we're going to do today. John, with no modifiers. It's going to be a straight up roll with no seize initiative to see who goes first or second, which then means that you have to think a little bit more about how you deploy instead of just going gung ho, like you don't know who's going first or second. So that can make strategies like using phantasm and whatnot a lot more interesting or intense. And I like it. I like that as well. So John has gone for raise the flag secondary objective. So you can raise the flag on the objectives to get points, and it's progressive and end game. I've gone for table quarters, essentially recon, because I feel like Eldar work very well for that. And then we've got the intel points, which is something that we can do as the game goes on, as well as the primary. So I highly recommend you keep a little notebook when you're playing this game. And the new coherency rules are definitely in range. So as you can see there, 20 warriors are going to have to make sure they stick nice and close together, so you don't like lose a bunch of models from coherency, which is definitely, you can't just string out a giant unit as a big line anymore. Okay, we'll be back after deployment. And here we are after deployment. So we went back and forth, as we said, which is interesting. This new coherency rule, by the way, huge impact just from deployment alone. I'm used to stringing my racks, with one character and then lining up these racks in big lines to control large parts of the table. That's nothing that you can't really do that anymore. I had 10 racks here. They have to basically deploy in I guess we'll get better at, making sure how, but if you don't use them as a group, there's a possibility they'll run away and leave. The jet bikes are here. They have +1 toughness. The Cabalite warrior unit's in there. The witches are in here with +1 strength. I put my Void Raven bomber down. We are playing, you can bomb and fly off the table. But we'll see when the rules come out. We'll see how that works. 2 Ravagers, Archon Skari, the Slith back here as well. And that's it. That's 1,500 points. And the Grotesques. And then, John, why don't you tell us how you deployed here?
So we got 2 squads of 20 warriors with their royal retinue in the middle.
Yep. Who has the veil?
The Crypt Tech has the veil.
Yeah, and then they both have Resorbs.
They both have Resorbs.
Cool.
We have 6 little bugs over there.
Yep.
In the mountains. And then we've got 9 little bugs and
Mr. Nightbringer.
And the Monolith and my 10 Immortals are currently awaiting arrival.
They've decided to come in strategic reserve or deep striking because the Monolith allows that. Yes, so he doesn't have to spend any CP. It's just something that you have because you can deep strike him. And the Tesla Immortals will be coming down to rain death upon me, which will be fun. Okay, so as we said, we are going to roll the dice, see who chooses to go first or second. Ah, yes.
Ooh.
I think that is a 5. I'm gonna go first. I like Dark Eldar going first. So I'm gonna go first. And good luck, sir. John the Cron. We'll do the Y5. As in a non-contact high five.
What are these?
Yeah, that's right. A Y5. Okay, let's start it. And let us know what you think in the comments down below. What do you think of the new changes? I hope you've been really enjoying it. We will begin with the Drukhari, turn 1. End of Drukhari phase, movement, turn 1. So this was a very interesting movement phase because he has Veil, so I want to make sure I kind of zone the table out. However, I have to keep all my units in coherency unless they're vehicles. So I can see why vehicles will be quite powerful for zoning out the table. Who says 10 Venoms? this guy. Now, so I've moved my jet bikes back instead of running them forward into the enemy to zone out the backboard. At the end of the movement phase, my Slith has decided to take the action Siphon Energy. So he's sitting there getting me an energy point, essentially. However, his aura will stop working, so he can't take wounds for the Archon if the Archon were to take wounds, essentially. They moved up. I advanced 1 inch with that Venom. Just got onto that objective. They advanced 5 inches forward, so they're right in the middle of the table here. And I had to keep him in coherency. And then I moved Razar nearby, he advanced up, and then I just moved him. I almost left him back here and forgot that you have to be within 3 inches of a unit or he can get sniped. So I had to move him just a little bit closer. And they moved and advanced just to get up onto that objective over there, while the witches in that Venom have stayed put as a counter-charge unit. As for the Void-Raven Bomber, it did fly over and get into this corner because it no longer dies when it flies off the table. So I did bomb the front unit of Necron Warriors and killed 7 with my bomb. So my plan is essentially to try and do as much damage to that unit of Necron Warriors as possible, potentially take it out if possible. But they do have a 5-up invul save for the Chronometron, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, wish me luck as we dive in to, and I'm shooting through this big, this dense piece of terrain here, which means that I'll be at -1 to hit it as well. So let's dive into the shooting phase. End of turn 1. Moved up, did a whole bunch of stuff. I did kill 16 in total with 14. There's 6 left. Now he does have a warlord trait, which is called Immortal Pride. So every unit within 6 is just fearless, so they just ignore morale. But we did roll it out with the new morale rules. One of them would have run, because I killed a bunch of them. And then he would have rolled, and he still would have only lost another one. Yep. Which then meant he would have had a whole bunch to roll again for. So the new morale rules are great for bigger units. However, the blast weapon is like not an incentive to bring bigger units, which is interesting. But if I know John has been on the receiving end of entire swathes of Necron warriors dying because I vected his auto-pass morale in the past, which is why he brings that, fearlessness bubble. Now he's going to get to roll for all his reanimation protocols, which is something he's actually getting to roll for. I do get 3 points for my recon because I have 1, and it's not recon technically, but it's, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 table quarters with units inside of them. So that'll be 3 points to that secondary for me. And with that, we move on to Necron turn 1. End of the Necron movement phase. So these scabs moved up to engage these Cavalry Wars. The Satan, the Nightbringer, with all the scabs moved up, and he did Cosmic Fire and hit the Grotesque for 3 mortals and killed 3 of the ranks. Although taking casualties away was interesting because we were like, wait, if we take this casualty, that casualty, then he's going to run away and he's going to run away. So it was interesting for the keeping the unit in coherency. Also, this unit is back up to 19 strong. What in the hell? That's crazy. He used one of the 2 resurrection orbs and used a stratagem to reroll 1s on his resurrection rolls. And so there's a 19 squad there where there used to be 6. Hooray! Yay! Other than that, during the command phase, or the start of the turn, we assume, he did put my will be done on both of the squads. And then at the end of the movement phase, he is gathering intel with the Overlord, and he is planting the flag with the Crypt Tech, which will then help him later in the game as that goes. Other than that, we're moving into the shooting phase. Yeah, and he still has a Monolith and a bunch of Immortals in Deep Strike, which is definitely interesting. It just feels like a different game. And we're loving it. This is great. End of the Necrons, turn 1. Interesting turn, actually. These Scars moved in, charged, and did nothing to this Venom, but did stop me from scoring that, or from holding it at the start of my command phase. Over here, we did do some extra shooting. Both units of warriors basically shot at the Grotesque and killed 2. They succeeded in killing 2 of the Grotesques, so there are 5 left, which means I don't have to worry about the coherency thing anymore. Now they can just string out in giant lines, which I'm very, very excited about. And then these Scarabs tried to charge in and then rolled a 3 and a 1, so they just failed. And then I vected the reroll to just hold them right there. I lost 3 racks, so we're going to do this on camera. 3 racks, they are leadership 8. So 3 and 3 is 6, they're fine, so they don't fail morale, so I don't have to take attrition tests on them either. with that, and something else that I don't know if we said, we said that they were getting points. So the flag has been planted at the end of his turn. Mm-hmm. So at the start of each subsequent turn, he will get a point for that objective for his secondary as we go, as well as one at the end of the game. So if you can hold that objective, it'll be worth a lot of points. Okay. Okay, let's move on to Drukhari, turn number 2. End of Drukhari, movement phase number 2. Now, fall back and shoot does not help fly anymore. So that venom just fell back. I decided not to spend the 2 CP to act as normal. So he's just going to move there. I needed a unit entirely within that deployment zone to give me another recon point. So he's going to just get me recon. Then these Reaver jet bikes were back here, but they're red grease, so they can advance. They move 18, so they can advance 8 inches when they advance. So 26 inches up here, and they can still charge. So I'm hoping to get over here. These Ravagers have moved up, essentially kind of zoning out the backboard. This is a 5-strong unit, so we can string out. And I think we're going to see a lot of 5-man units in this edition because MSU seems to be the way to go. This Venom has just moved this way. The Rax have moved on to that objective there. Then the Grotesques, Drazar, and the Monculus are going to engage that flank over there. So, and the Void Ring Bomber had to fly off the table. But it will be returning next turn, anywhere that I want, which is fun. Something that's really cool to note in the new edition is when, we don't know if you can do this by choice. However, any unit can deploy on your board edge within an inch, even if they don't fit anywhere. So if somebody blocks off the whole table, you can always deploy within an inch of your table quarter. So and then if you're in engagement range of the enemy when you deploy, you count as charging them, which is really fun. Which means that, it's going to be super hard to block off the entire table now. It also means the big units or big models that can't physically fit entirely within 6 inches of the table edge when they come in can always be deployed because they just have to be within an inch of your table edge. So big models, things like that, like Marauder bombers, I'm thinking of you, can fly off the table then come back on your table edge, which seems really cool. Okay, let's move on to shooting phase. And here we have the end of Drukhari turn 2 out of 5, because apparently the game's 5 turns. So it's going to get down and dirty pretty quickly. The jet bikes did go in and killed all but one, even after heat lances, killed a couple. And then the Grav Talons ran in and did a mortal wound as well. One was left alive. He opted to explode it with a CP and kill the bike. Then over here was the big one. All of my shooting, my Ravagers mainly, shot and killed a lot of the Scarabs. Mm-hmm. Then I charged in. Drazar was able to charge in and do double attack. I did have to vect the interrupt. But Drazar double attacked and killed all the Scarabs that allowed the Grotesques to then attack fully into the Nightbringer and then kill the Nightbringer, which is kind of how that went because I did the reroll wounds on them and they do mortal wounds on 6s to wound with their flesh gauntlets, which was amazing. They did like 8 mortal wounds. It was crazy. And with that, I do get my 3 points for my recon, and I'm gathering intel with them, I'm gathering intel with him, and I'm gathering intel with the Rax as well, because they didn't do anything, they just sat there. So kind of forced John to have to kill the guys that are getting intel, but he also has stuff he has to kill that can do damage to him. So there's a whole variety of different things going on. I find that this game right now is shaping up to be a lot more interactive than 8th edition was, just from the little things that we've been playing with. So with that, he's got 1 reanimation to make, and then we move on to Necron turn 2. End of the Necron turn 2. It feels like this game's been going forever already.
It's the heat.
It's the heat. It's really humid and hot outside in the basement of Skari. I mean, the garage of Skari, yeah. So here we have the 20 warriors because the other one got up. So now they're back to full strength again. And they've moved back to try and put some distance between them and the Grotesques. In the meantime, the Monolith has arrived. The Monolith's deep strike rule is actually having to be 12 inches away from the enemy. So we were thinking about that. It might just be worth paying the CP to put him in strategic reserve and then outflank him on the board edge, but then be able to do that, within 9 inches instead of having to be 12 inches away, which just seems like an archaic sort of like rule dynamic. If you deep strike, just make it 9 inches, whatever. Okay, with that, we move on to the shooting phase. Oh, and at the start of the turn, John did get 5 points for that objective. He got an intel point and a flag point, basically. So he has a whole bunch of those over there as well. So he's starting to get some points.
Use of that -1. No,
and here we have minus. Turn 2. The Venom did die because the Warriors just rapid-fired the hell out of it. These little Cavalite Warriors that we're trying to get intel died as well. And then the Monolith shot everything into the Reaver jet bikes. They did lightning fast reflex and he only killed 3 jet bikes because one passed 2 out of 3. Feel no pains. And then they passed morale. So they're good. But that does mean I do hold that objective. So I do hold 2. And hold more. So I'm going to get 15 for the primary this turn, which is good. And then we can continue the game. Although I was hoping that more would survive so I could like snipe some characters and stuff. That would be really fun with their mortal wound shenanigans. However, that's not going to happen. Now how many wounds does a Monolith have?
20.
Okay. 20 and it regains wounds?
Yes.
Okay. So if I want to kill this, I have to focus on it. At the same time, I got my Grotesque and Drazar, which I kind of have to start throwing in over here to basically do some work. I do gain 1 more command point. I'm back up to 3 command points because I didn't regain any from Labyrinthine Cunning last turn. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, moving on to turn 3 for the Drukhari. End of Dark Eldar Drukhari turn 3. I put 4 wounds on the Monolith. The Heat Lances failed to wound, and then each Ravager put 1 went through, so 2 damage from each, 4 damage on the Monolith. It's going to go back up to 17. However, on another flank, the Grotesques charged in and completely wiped out a 20-man unit of Necron warriors after Drazar had killed 6 of them. And then the Grotesque just went in, and I used my last 2 command points for real wounds, and they just wiped out the other 14 that were left. Just completely destroyed them. But I did tag this unit. Something that was cool is because there are only 5 of them, you can string them out better. So when you go into combat, you just have to remember when you take casualties, you have to be very careful where you pull casualties because after morale, things could like run away as well if you're not in coherency. I'm also getting intel here and intel there again. So just continuing on the intel points, trying to get my points as best I can. And with that, we're continuing into 3rd out of turn 5. Yep. It's these games are gonna go really fast, which is really exciting because you can get a few down in an afternoon or an evening. Once you get the hang of it, you can just sit down, play, get it over and done with, and play another one in the same time it would take you to play 2 games. End of Necron, turn 3. End of movement phase, Necron, turn 3. So here we have Monolith has moved up. He did use a command point to pull his Overlord this way, and then the Necron Immortals disembarked because that's what they do. So they're just basically there now. And then he Veiled of Darkness the Warriors over this side, basically try kill some intel gatherers and be annoying on that side of the board. And this Lord is being left to hold the line. So with that, we're moving on to the shooting phase and the rest of the turn. But it's interesting because there's still 2 more turns to score primary points. And John could still get 15-15 if it, depending on how the game would go. And that would be 40 points total, right? So there's like the ability to get all the points later in the game if you do get pressured heavily in the first part of the game. So it's just a matter of like practicing and seeing like, when you need to spring out and do stuff like that to get the most out of those points. But so far it's been awesome. We'll do like a little recap after where we talk about our impressions of how it's shaping up. Also, we forgot that I had my Void Raven Bomber. Well, I forgot. This is my fault. So we're going to count it as destroyed because we don't know whether or not you can keep stuff indefinitely in strategic reserves, except it does say 3+, but for matched play, it might be you have to come in turn 3 like it is right now, / if you had to come back in the next turn, and it doesn't, then he dies. So we'll just say the Void Raven is dead. Okay, so they killed the jet bikes. However, the Monolith had to charge in and vacuum it up with the Portal of Exile to kill the last model. 2 wounds were done to that Ravager because the Particle Whip decided to not do any damage this time. The Lord did try and snipe Drazar, but failed to kill Drazar. Then the Grotesque ate the Lord. And over here, they just killed the Rax pretty easily. So at the start of my command phase for turn 4 now, I do control 2 for 10 points, and I control more because he only has 1 for 15. So I will be maxing out my primary. So now I don't have to worry about primary. It's all about my secondary points. So scoring points for intel and the recon points as well as we move in to Drukhari, turn 4. End of Drukhari, turn number 4. Second to last turn, almost last turn. I decided to shoot both Ravagers into the Immortals, and I killed 8. I was 1 inch short from charging the Grotesque into the Immortals. I decided not to charge this because it can suck me up, basically do damage to me and with its Portal of Exile. So I charged the Ravager in instead to force the Monolith to shoot my Ravager next turn because he's getting intel points, which means that I don't want him to be able to shoot him because he's literally out in the open. I'm also getting intel points with him, and my Witches moved in advance basically to start putting pressure on that side. With the Venom, who charged in and lost 4 wounds, so he's got 2 wounds left. But at least he's kind of stopping those Warriors from doing a lot. So that's good for me. Okay, but now we've got reanimation protocols on them. And they used the last 2 CP that the Necrons had to auto-pass morale. He gets plus 1 CP at the start of his turn 4, moving into the Necrons' turn. Necron turn 4 recap. On some news, the Venom finally died as the Warriors just punched it to death. And then over here, the Monolith shot the Ravager down to 1 wound left and then punched the Ravager to death and took the last wound in close combat and then piled in to make it hard for me to kind of move around here. So I'm going to have to go up and over to get to them, or I'm going to have to shoot them through -1 to hit, cover. It was a good play. Good play there. So it is my final turn. It's the end of the turn. I will be getting 3 more intel points. I will be getting my last 5 points for primary because I max out at 45. Sorry, I did the math badly. And then I'm essentially going to move these Witches up here, and then just get potentially my 3 points. Maybe charge him. We'll see. He doesn't have any CPs to Overwatch me, which then means that those Witches can really get stuck in there, which is kind of cool. So yeah, moving on to what is the final Drukhari turn on turn 5. And then I know, it's been crazy. Feels like the game's been a lot longer, but it's only been 5 turns because things have been happening from turn 1, which has been super fun.
To attack. Skari.
End of the turn 5. So the end of the game for the Dark Eldar. The Monolith survived with 1 wound. And my Ravager only killed 1 of these Immortals, and now they're reanimating, which is great. Drazar did try the long bomb charge to get there, failed it, so then he wasn't able to get into the Monolith to help finish it off. In the meantime, the Witches did charge to tie up the Warriors, and killed 4 Warriors, plus a grenade, by the way. Grenades being blast is awesome against big units. That was really good. And then I lost 1 Witch in return, so they have successfully tied them up. But with that, I do get my last 3 points for my recon, so I will get the maximum 15 for that secondary. And we move into turn 5 for the Necrons.
All right.
End of Necron turn 6. 5. Oh man, because it's the end of the game, I instantly go to turn 6. So the Necron Warriors killed all the Witches. This time I failed all my saves, and all the Witches died. The Monolith fell back so that the Tesla Immortals could shoot at the Grotesque. They killed 1 more Grotesque, did 15 wounds, but the Grotesques are just so tough. I love Grotesque so much. Drazar did get charged by the Overlord. Overlord did 2 damage. Then Drazar did 10 damage to the Overlord. And then John spent the CP to just stand it back up again for a 4+. And Drazar has 1 wound remaining. But with that, it is the end of the game. So how did it end up? I highly recommend you keep a piece of pen and paper to keep track of your points. We had 10 points, 15, 15, 5, because that's the max. So I had 45 primaries. I had 1, 2, 3, 3 intel points, because there's no more command phase, so I don't get any intel points next turn. And I had turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, essentially. Then recon points, I got 3 every turn, so I got my full 15 points there. And then John was basically on the back foot the whole game. So he was only able to get a couple flag, couple intel. And we don't know what the full secondaries are. Of course, based on practice, we might know what good secondaries are, what aren't. We're just playing with what we have. And these two were clearly harder for John's army to achieve, which was straight up like how that worked. And going first really helped me get the board control I needed to score the primary points early in the game. But other than that, thanks a lot for tuning in to another 9th edition As We Know It Battle Report. John, thanks for coming down.
Good game. Thanks for having me.
And tell us, what was your takeaway of the new edition? How's it shaping up? What do you like? What do you dislike?
I really like the fact that it really feels more tactical. It's not so much who can punch who the hardest first. I find I was actually able to put a monolith on the table and have it do things, which is not something I've been able to say for a couple of years now. I don't dislike the overwatching for a command point, but it is something that's going to make you really think about how you have to conserve and which ones you want to commit to, because on the one flank, I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, I'll just overwatch this Venom before it gets into combat, and it was not the correct judgment call. So it'll definitely take some getting used to, but overall, I like what has happened with this board. This is, again, the first game I've made it to turn 5 with models on the table in a long time. And it was way more even than, even without new models and new codexes and new, Psychic Awakening stuff. It was a very even match. So it feels, just with the minor tweaks to the cover, which is great, it feels much better balanced.
I do. I agree. I love it. And of course, time will tell. But thanks a lot for everybody who watches. A huge shout out to all the channel Patreons. If you would like to become a Patreon, the link is down in the description below. And I'll be putting up more of these videos as 9th edition information comes out. So stay tuned for your hobby stuff and hobby needs and whatnot. Make sure you check John out on Twitch. What's your handle, John?
John the Cron.
John the Cron, where we do Battlefleet Gothic and some really cool like live streams. So that's really fun. You can always hang out on Twitch every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time if you want a hobby. Other than that, let us know what you think in the comments down below. 9th edition, yay or nay? Also, small table size, did you actually come into play a lot, John, other than the monolith Deep Strike?
So it blocked out the monolith, but it definitely made it easier to, my whole army is 24-inch guns, so I wasn't struggling to shoot stuff. I had no wasted firepower, so I like it.
On my end, Grotesques, I'm so glad I put them back in. And being able to have the patrols from multiple different detachments and stuff was awesome. Forgetting my Void Raven Bomber was a bummer. Okay, with that terrible pun, we will be back next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Skari out. The Dark Kin.